Hi guys, welcome to my first ever vlog. And before I get started, I wanted to ask that you guys be kind. This is the first time I've done this, so my camera skills, my editing obviously need a lot of work, but I'd like you to focus on the content. So what I wanted to do is take you guys on a nice autumn stroll. You know, I find going for a walk is where I come up with my best ideas and sometimes my best strategies. So I'd like to see if I can do that for you guys today. And on that topic, you know, I'd like to start with, why am I doing a vlog? You know, what's the point of this? I realized that I've been working in the same industry, e-commerce, for over 16 years. I started in 2001 when I first came to the US. I was selling products from my dorm room, and you know, the world's changed a lot and I've learned so much. You know, today, you know, I'm running a company that helps thousands of Amazon sellers. You know, we're using data science, algorithms, really high-powered stuff. But the most important thing, and the thing that really excites me and our mission, is the sellers, and that's you. So I miss that interface, and I don't ever really want to lose that, no matter how large we get, no matter how many sellers that we get on board on our platform. So what I wanted to do is create a system and a way that I could continue to talk to sellers, come up with things that I know, and ultimately help as many people as possible. So I'm thinking of doing this on a weekly basis, perhaps even more frequently than that. And you know, I'll start today with a topic that is very, very important. It's a topic that is always at the forefront of every retailer's, every seller's mind, and it's cash flow. And you know, that's the real essence of being a seller. The seller in the system of retail is the one taking tremendous risk. And you know, when I worked with Amazon, and I started with Amazon in 2003, I got a fax from them, and you know, the fax said something like, you know, we've been working with Toys R Us, it's gone pretty well, which is pretty ironic actually, because they filed for bankruptcy very recently. And anyway, the fax said something like, you know, we've been looking at your products. At the time, these were niche sporting goods, you know, heart rate monitor watches, GPS watches. When they first came out, that's what I was selling. And they said, you know, we'd love to add this to the Amazon catalog, and our vision is this marketplace. You know, sign this fax and you guys can get started. So when I looked at that opportunity, it didn't seem like a particularly interesting proposition. You know, give 15% to Amazon, and you know, what is this? It's an overgrown bookstore. You know, the world's changed tremendously, but I think, well, today, you know, the recent stat that I read said that nearly 80% of searches in the United States for products are now originating at Amazon, and that's just phenomenal. Back in 2003, it was even a question of, is the marketplace going to be successful? And I remember thinking, you know, why should we sign up for this? But the common thing that has always been there as a seller, the struggle, is always around risk. And it hasn't got any easier as an Amazon seller. I mean, we talk to sellers every day, and I would say in those 14 years since I've been involved with the Amazon marketplace, the decisions that a seller has to make, the calculations that a seller has to make, the complexity of listing inventory, the factor of Amazon sponsor products now, all of these things have made it even harder. So you know, I'd like to try and address this on a regular basis as we start to improve what it's like to be a seller. And as I said, the first thing I want to start with is risk. And the most important factor of risk, I think, on sellers' minds today, you know, in this type of time frame, is around cash flow. When you think about timing, you know, if we're in the middle of October, most sellers are really asking themselves the question of, what is this holiday period, November and December, going to look like for them? How is it actually going to perform? I took a look at something that Shopify released, and they're doing lots of workshops around this. They're actually combining Black Friday and Cyber Monday. They're doing these pop-up meetups. I think one of them's in New York City, and I think that's a great idea. That really indicates a change that's happened in e-commerce. And that change is that instead of it being focused on one day, let's say Black Friday originally, or even Cyber Monday, the whole period has started to meld together into this big push. So what does that mean in terms of risk? What does that mean in terms of cash flow and inventory? And that's something I've been really thinking about to try and help give sellers advice. And I think it relates to the importance of not getting overly excited and really looking at building a model. And when I say a model, I mean creating an analytical view of predictions with the data that you have for how you're going to... What does modeling actually mean in this context? It means creating a financial prediction based on data that you have for how something's going to happen. And I think that's just a really, really important exercise that every seller should be focused on right now. And I'd like to share some tips on how exactly do you go about doing that. And the basic premise that I'd like to offer is that a model should be based around different scenarios. And let's say you use Excel or you use Google spreadsheets or numbers or any application that's a spreadsheet. I'd like sellers to think about creating 3 different scenarios for their modeling: best case, medium case, and then worst case. And what you are able to do with those 3 scenarios is start to predict, with the best information that you possibly can, what is going to happen, and then plan for it. With those 3 different scenarios, what you're able to do is capture the closest estimate of your expected outcome. Why is this important today? Why is this relevant to investment? How can this make a difference? The reason why is it allows you to really start to think about the impact of an outcome. And I think a lot of sellers are extremely emotional about their products. I mean, the more successful you are, the more that you're creative, the more that you believe in building your own intellectual property. And it's very, very difficult to sort of step back and push yourself to create, let's say, a worst case scenario. And that's how a lot of sellers do get into trouble. So once you have your 3 different scenarios, you're going to be able to calculate a spread of different outcomes. And why is that important? It's going to give you the ability to plan and to get a sense of what's going to happen. And this is really, really important. As an entrepreneur, it's extremely stressful. There's a lot of uncertainty, and there's a lot of disappointment. But if you've modeled these 3 different scenarios out, then you can start to put into place contingencies. What if scenario, what if I don't sell all of these goods? And this is going to really, really help your decision making. So the 3 different outcomes are critical. That's my main takeaway in terms of cash flow right now that should be top of mind for every seller. The other thing that starts to happen when you do this modeling that I think is important is you start to think about why you're making these predictions with what data you have available. And I think this is another area that really leads into risks that entrepreneurs take in retail and selling, particularly on Amazon, where they try and push for more SKUs to generate more revenue. But a lot of the new SKUs that they're looking to release don't have any data. And what's very important to understand here is that most sellers, we look at this data all the time, most sellers do not invest enough in the inventory that is working. So the tendency is to always think about growth around new inventory, when if sellers focus more on being in stock, more around economies of scale. What do I mean by that? I mean selling more of the same product, which is easier on shipping, supply chain, and putting pressure on your manufacturers. That can result in much more profit at much lower risk. So when you're doing these scenarios, think about why you're predicting these different outcomes, and the focus on the products that are already selling is super important. And I think many sellers don't focus on that. That's really my two big takeaways. So there you go. Those are my first two vlogging tips around cash flow. And I'd like to thank everyone for watching. And also I'd like to get any feedback. Please, leave some comments, reach out to me directly, subscribe to our channel. And let me know if this is a good idea. I'd love to hear from as many sellers as possible. I'll do much better next time, I promise. And I'll give it my best shot. And thank you so much for the opportunity to share some ideas. Thank you. Bye.